Okay. So is it okay to record this, guys? Does anyone object?
Answer.
Okay. Sige. So what we will do now is basically discuss how a research introduction is being written, no? Just like what I've said, you've started with your tool, constructing your tools, no? That's your survey, statements, and you also had your statements of the problem or research questions, no? So now what we will do is basically try to accommodate questions coming from the example that I gave you, no, in terms of doing an introduction. So first things first muna tayo. What did you not understand with the example that I have given you? Or parang naintindihan naman? Parang wala namang tanong.
Ay, sir,
Lahat.
dun po sa context of problem po. Paragraph po siya or bullet po.
Yes, this is a paragraph. Usually in practices, uh, the context of the gap and the intention to answer the gap belongs to one paragraph. But if you want to separate them, it's also okay. No, there's no rule as to separating them or just having them in one paragraph. Wala pong rule yan. So in our case, that's like always been the case, no? An introduction for an IMRAD is usually around 1 page lang, no? So they don't want a very long introduction. Okay. Any other questions?
Sir, may tanong ako, sir.
Yes, what is your tanong?
Ano po, sir, regarding, sir, to ano po, yung sa... Wait lang po, sir. Yung attempt to address the, ano po, sir, the gap, sir. Paano po yun, sir? Need po ba namin ano po, sir, like, i-address po, like, sa mga famous na journal po regarding to our issue, sir? Yung mga ganun po.
You're asking about the intention to answer the gap?
Yes po, sir, yung parang,
Hmm.
ano po, sir, yung parang may support po ba kami sa parang scholar researcher to prove that our ano po research is ano po parang factual po siya, sir, ganun.
Okay. The only time that you are going to contextualize it or explain it using some references is basically not in the intention of the gap. All others you will have to except for the intention of the gap and expected outcome, no, or expected output. So these two you don't really have authorities or studies to back it up because these are your personal opinion or personal analysis, no? So if you would notice, the ones with intention to answer the gap, it's just like stating what is the purpose of your study, no? So in this case, this is about women's mental health ba to? Or economy, mental health and economy. Uh, wait, i-share ko na lang para we're in one table. Okay. Please tell me if you can see it already.
Yes po, sir, kita na po,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so let's go to the intention to answer the gap, no? So it states there, this study investigates the coping mechanism and the response of women in the academe in the aspect of mental health and economic situation in the face of a global crisis. So that's just a plain statement with regards to what is the purpose of the study, no? What do you want to do in order to address the study? Wala nang iba, no? Kasi yung iba, I think the same case with constructing the problem Ang iba sa inyo parang lumilipad ang utak. Statement of the problem lang naman yun. It is not about imagining another problem. Okay? It's plainly about statement of the problem, of the title that you have already, and based on the survey that you have already constructed. So in this case, just like what I've said, your tool or instruments are your survey, ha? Baka you might forget. Statement of the problems is going to be your guide, no? Like for example, for this research, itong example, it wants to tackle coping mechanism and response of women in the academe in the aspect of mental health and economic situation. So dalawa yan. Dalawa yung kanilang gustong gawin dito. Dalawang variable, pero dalawang gusto nilang gawin sa dalawang variable, no? So sa mental health at economic situation, then coping mechanism response. So yun, it's just stating the intention. Okay? Any further questions?
Okay po sir kasi po akala ko lang po sir kanina sir is po talaga like i-address po sa mga po yung mga famous research po
Mm,
ganon para
not,
po ganun. Kasi
yeah.
nag-search po ako sir regarding to po sir sa research gap. May sinasabi po dun na sa research is po sir you need to address po something sa mga famous scholar po sir sa work nila para maano po sir to seem na sobrang effective po talaga sir ganun. Pero
That's
yung
in
in-explain niyo po, yes sir, na-gets ko na po sir.
Okay. You will do that yung referring your issues, no, confusion or problem with regards to research, doon yan sa gap context. That's where if you would notice the example, it has already authorities with it like CHED, DepEd, no? Kasi the context of the gap, hindi yan pwedeng i-invento lang natin. For example, ano bang isa sa mga research ninyo? Cultural diversity na naman. Cultural diversity, no? So what is the problem with cultural diversity? I think ang problema sa cultural diversity is that walang paki yung tao, and kung may paki man, ano ngayon yung level of action, no? Like for example, in the case of teachers, tinuturo ba nila? Kasi dapat ang context ng cultural diversity, kahit na hindi siya major subject, no? Kahit na hindi siya part ng isang course. I mean, you're not taking naman course related to maybe ano ba, sociology, anthropology, which are directly involved with the context of culture. You still have to teach that, no? And there's value in knowing cultural diversity, like understanding other groups of people, humanitarian, blah, 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 no? So, it's basically a problem that you need to contextualize in the beginning. Okay, in the gap context. So there you will already cite authorities na, no? But kayo yung mag-identify ng problem. Citing the authorities is just like hindi ka pwedeng mag-assume na wala ka namang basis. That's why in a research dapat there's this idea na you've seen this problem and you try to look into other sources na will prove that these problems exist, no? Yan, yung context ng cultural diversity, I mean, in passing lang, nadadaanan naman natin yung problem na yan, no? Na walang pakialam yung tao, cultural diversity. We always tell na respect humanity, respect others, but these forms of respect as to which level lang. Hindi pa nga tayo na na there's a concept of respecting cultural diversity. Yun, no? Of course, ganun din yung ibang research titles natin. May mga problems yan before it's even made into a research title. Ano pa ba ibang research problem? Like for example, foreign relation, di ba? It's a political issue, it's a political problem. First is the state, the government, what I mean is it does have decisions, no, related to foreign relations, pero Anong pakialam ng tao doon sa foreign relation? Kaya if we have like loans with China or if we have alliance with the United States, may mga consequences kasi yun. So hindi natin alam whether the decision of the government, should it just be a decision of the government or we have to also be a part of it, no? Yun. So, any questions with regards to context and intention to answer the gap? Dito muna tayo. So, when you say gap context, it's just telling us na ano yung problema na isosolve natin. Ano yung nangyayari. Okay? So, in this case, for example, the mental health and economy, the researcher provided the context in the context of there are many teachers who are affected, no? Students and teachers who are affected in terms of health crisis, no? Both health and economic impacts. Okay. Any questions with regards to the gap and intention to answer the gap? Just follow the way it's written, huh? You don't have to be confused with what to write.
Okay na po, sir. Sir, bale sa ano po, sir, sa general background, sir. Ito po, dito, sir, mag-focus lang po dito, sir, sa ano po, kung ano yung mga some problems po, like sa amin po, media politics po, ganun. More on, ano lang po, issues ng Pilipinas about media politics, sir.
Okay. Very good question. What do we do with the background, no? So after the intention of the gap, you will write first about the general background. Ano ba yung general background? So like in this case, the general background is about the mental health and economic no, the economic situation. So general background, you will have to talk about first about mental health and economic aspect of the research. Kasi yun naman ang variable niya. Like sa inyo, like for example, cultural diversity lang naisip ulit. In a cultural diversity, you need to talk about cultural diversity. No? Yun lang naman ang variable dyan. Okay? So general variable about cultural diversity. I'm not sure lang ano yung wording sa cultural diversity. Is it about awareness? Anong group yun?
Yes, sir. Awareness.
And what's the other one?
Integrated instructions.
Okay. So there are two things about about cultural diversity. So sa general background, they're going to talk about awareness and integrated instruction, no? So in the general background, maybe they can talk about related to parang yung people are not aware or it's not even taught in schools, no? That's the general background. Parang in passing lang yan siya, 1 or 2 paragraphs. Walang particular number of paragraphs yan. Tapos, on the specific background, ito na, they will discuss about the first is on the level of awareness, no? So, cultural diversity in relation to awareness. So, they can talk about, I'm not sure with their respondents, maybe they were students and professionals pala, no? So, yun. Awareness of cultural diversity in reference to students and professionals, no? Yun. Then the next background, of course, it's about the integrated teaching, whether cultural diversity, the concept of cultural diversity, is being taught, no, in your respective subjects. Are there lessons integrated in the discussion, or even if it's not their major, like hindi naman siya CE, civil engineering, or hindi naman siya business entrepreneurship, are they still talking about cultural diversity, maybe through examples, maybe through contextualization to explain something, no? So, like, I don't know, if I'm an CE teacher, if I'm building a building, oh, this is about this design, building ba? Parang architecture eh. But anyway, this design of building is similar to the Renaissance period, may mga ganon, no? Or the integrity of this structure is similar to those of the Eskimos in blah blah blah. In Alaska ba yung Eskimos? Yung ganon. Uh, there's a form of integration when you talk about it. Okay? Then, lastly, huwag dapat kalimutan the specific background on local, no? So ngayon dito sa Zamboanga, sa region natin, may pakiba yung mga tao sa cultural awareness kasi dito sa atin mismo, meron tayong ilan. Ang dami nating tribo. We have different tribes, we have different languages. So sometimes this research, for example, I had a difficulty looking for contextualization or references for the local, no? So what I do is I search minsan makikita mo na lang siya sa yung mga news articles or release ng mga different agencies, ano yung mga agenda nila with regards to ethnic, no? So I'm sure sa inyo, like cultural diversity yan, there will be some news articles or press releases from different organizations, no? Yun. So, in the introduction, we expect already references, no? References coming from reputable organizations, individuals who have conducted the same study or related study, no? In the introduction. So wag nating pagkamalan ng ang introduction, no, na parehas siya sa literature. Yung literature is really collecting already findings and studies about related to your research. Okay, but before we move further, ito naman sa last part is expected outcome, no? Like for example, itong study on mental health, women's mental health and economy, the expected outcome says the present study aims to understand and frame policies from the coping mechanism and response of women and learners amid the crisis of COVID-19 to both their mental health and economic status. No? So there are many ways on how to phrase or rephrase expected outcome. So sa kanila, the study aims to understand, no, and frame policies from coping mechanism and response. So gusto nila ng policies. So there are many possible way of saying expected outcome. You wanted, for example, to come up with a recommendation, no, in order for you to maybe list what are the types of instruction integrating cultural, pwedeng you'll be able to verify or validate the level of awareness, no? And then maybe try to understand and map out, not naman map out, or analyze the way teachers integrate the concept of cultural diversity in their lessons, no? So, if you would notice, yung mga statements of the problems natin, it's basically the guide, no, towards making your introduction. Sino yung nag-ingay? Choppy ba? Okay.
Hindi
So
man, sir.
that's just the introduction. 'Di ba? So it depends on your statement of the problem. Just to restate, no? So when you write the introduction, you have the gap context, ano yung problema ngayon na gusto nating isolve. Then intention to answer the gap, no? this study investigates, pwedeng this study will examine or examines, no? Yan, you can use other words. Wag lang yung highfalutin or medyo na mahirap na words, no? Ang difference ng research is really sa ibang way of writing is simple lang research. Hindi tayo nagpapataasan ng words dito. So, gusto niya na dapat maintindihan lang yung research. Then, background of the study, yun. Tingnan nyo yung statement of the problems nyo, makikita nyo dyan. For example, if you're talking about cultural diversity, di ba, meron tayong iba-ibang categories, no? Yan, yung categories, ini-explain na yan doon sa literature. Pero later na yun, no? We'll just tackle it one by one. Okay, so, tingnan natin yung questions niya. Oh, yan. Yan, nasa background yan. No? Number one, nasa background. It's about mental health adversities of women. Adversities is also called problems, no? Or challenges. Ano yung coping mechanism and response from their mental health adversities? Yan. Yan, yun lang. 1 and 2 yata lang included. Kasi yung iba parang statistical questions naman yan. Okay, that ends my discussion. So I expect an outline. It's already 10:30. Outline lang. I want to see lang. Kasi kung isusulat yun ng introduction o lang outline, baka naman ano na naman i-imagine nyo kasi. So sayang lang yung time. So when you give me an outline, you write your title. Always write your title if you send your output. So, halimbawa sa gap context, okay lang muna na walang references. Yan. Just state, for example, gap context, maybe in a short sentence or a short phrase. Ano yung gap context nyo? Ano yung intention to the gap? So, I expect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 concepts, no, na shortly was written lang by a short phrase or a short sentence. Yeah. So you're going to write gap, context, intention, to under gap, background. Specific backgrounds, I think dalawa lang naman specific backgrounds nyo. Eh. Then local, parang piko yata. Yun lang. So I expect an outline. Just an outline. Wala mo ng references, no? Kasi outline pa lang man. So any questions, guys, before we proceed? I'm already done with the discussion. So questions, raise them now. So do not
Sir,
forget align your... Go ahead.
through message pa rin po.
Yes, through message pa rin. Just submit it through message. Hindi pwedeng mahaba yung outline nyo. Outline lang po yan. So it's not yet writing the introduction. I just want to know the flow. Always remember your best guide or your best process flow is your statements of the problem or research questions. Nothing else, no? Yan din ang gagamitin sa methods, yan din ang gagamitin sa literature. Any questions? Parang wala na. So, I'll be giving you until 1 p.m., no? Outline lang naman yan. You're not supposed to be confused, no? Because an outline will tell me if you are confused or if you are okay already. Okay, so much for that. We will already... Ay, wait. Yung ano na pala natin. Attendance. Someone take the attendance. Yung sa ano lang.